Hey, it's Shane and Ben back for a third attempt. We've had to dump all of our previous screening software. Don't know why it's not working, why Ben wasn't coming out. He should have been on the last stream, but now I think we got it fixed here, Ben. So we're gonna
Hopefully, this is the test. Hopefully, everybody who's watching the stream right now, hopefully you can hear me. If you cannot, let us know.
yeah, I'm gonna reach out to some people to turn it back on and make sure that we are actually here. Let's get some viewers. Come on, people, come watch us.
Third attempt.
We are not having a good night tonight on the good old YouTube. Our first stream got kicked off. Ben couldn't be heard. But we're back again.
We're back. It's third time's the charm, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, we're hoping. So I'm just okay.
It's working. I see people saying that it's working. We're good.
Okay, so we're getting comments that it's working now. Woo! So
all right,
we're on our third streaming software tonight, and we're gonna jump right back into this Gran Turismo review. You know, this movie here, even though it says the 11th of August on there, Sony Pictures moved the date in North America, shifted it to August 25th. But this might be the biggest surprise of the summer. At least for me, this is definitely, I was not expecting much from this movie. I thought it was a video game movie. It's not a video game movie. It's a sports biopic. And I know when you were sitting beside me, you had a little bit of excitement there too when you were watching this one.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you when in saying that this is probably the biggest surprise of the summer when it comes to my expectations and then in the film itself, because I really did not have many expectations for this movie at all. The trailers didn't really do much for me, and I thought it was just going to be another pretty standard racing film. And while it does hit a lot of the same beats that you find in sports biopics and other racing movies, it had a very unique angle to it in that it's based on a true story, and an incredible true story at that. I was actually kind of blown away by this story. It's about this team, this group of amazing Gran Turismo video game players who get selected to go to a camp to learn to actually drive race cars. And it's all true. It kind of blew me away while I was watching it. I didn't believe that this was a true story, but it is. And I think that added a lot to the film. So it is an exciting, exhilarating racing film with great racing sequences, while also being, referencing the game and tying into the game, little references here and there, little visual moments that pay homage to the video game as well. So there's a little bit of something for everybody in this movie.
Yeah, and Neil Blomkamp directed this. He's got great vision, especially when it comes to science fiction aspects of movies, but this is a true story version, and he really dove in, but he took his experience from those types of movies. He was able to integrate the game into the movie in a very unique way, use the special effects properly, and really made something, directed something that moved me to the edge of my seat multiple times during the movie. Has a great emotional core. It's an underdog story. I mean, there's so much we can say about this movie. It's really shockingly good.
Yeah. Across the board, I'd say, like you were saying, there's some great visual effects moments, some great visual nods to the game, especially in the third act. There are a couple of moments that kind of bring it all back to the game that were really cool, really, really well done. Just enough of tie-ins to the game while still allowing it to be its own thing. Like the incredible, like the true story, a lot of things that happen in this film are kind of unbelievable, and it's intense, it's dramatic, it's emotional, it's exciting, it's fun. It was just across the board a really solid sports biopic, one of the best sports biopics I've seen in a little while. And I wasn't expecting to say that.
Yeah, and it's a movie that does something that a lot of race car movies don't do well. It puts you in the driver's seat. You feel like you're part of the team, like you might be driving the car. And it felt like the game. Like I've lifted this game a few times. the Gran Turismo game. It's a sports racing emulator. So it's when you drive the cars, it handles like you're driving the actual car. So if you've got the right gear, the steering wheel, the pedals, adaptive seating, all those things, you're going to feel like you're really driving a car. And the racetracks are scanned meticulously by, the makers of this game to make sure they're as accurate as possible from, the minutia of the angles going into corners or the bump levels. It's all 3D scanned, it's brought in, and it's so accurate that we now have this movie based on a kid who went to this camp, won the camp, and then he's driven over 200 races in his career, over 200 races.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy to think. And he also did his own stunt driving for this movie. So the actor Archie, who plays him, and I can't pronounce Archie's last name, he had the guy he's playing doing the stunt driving for him in this movie. And I think that's insane.
Yeah, that's something I didn't know until the credits rolled on this movie, that it was him doing all of his stunts. But I thought that was pretty crazy, pretty incredible. And yeah, it is. I didn't know how accurate the game was to actually racing. Like, that also kind of blew me away. The fact that they have put so much intention into making the game like an actual emulator. And clearly they did a good job, because they were able to take these kids, and obviously they had to train them a lot. There's a lot that you can't quite replicate doing in an actual car, but they're like, the basics were there, that they were able to have a lot of experience and kind of jump into it and be a lot more ahead than people who had never played the game or anything. So yeah, I guess you need to get all those different things. Like, you need the wheel, you need the seat, the pedals. You can't just be playing with a controller for it to be like a full-on racing experience. But if you do go all out and you get everything, it's kind of like you're driving a real race car in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and after playing the game with you while we were there, Ben,
I was so bad at that game.
I was a little terrified of you taking out the exotic cars at the event. Now, unfortunately, in our previous live stream, where we ended up getting kicked off by YouTube for showing footage from the movie, I had shown that Ben and I went to this event hosted by Sony Pictures, where they allowed us to drive exotic cars. So we played the game before we went out in the cars. And for how often you were in the wall, I was a little worried when we first went out, but it turned out all right, because you got to drive not only a Lamborghini, but you also took out an Audi R8.
Yeah, which was incredible. But I will just say, it is not the same when you play with a controller, okay? And I've never played the game before. It's not like I'm actually driving. If I had the full-on setup, I would have been fine. I would have won that race in a heartbeat. No, I was pretty bad. But
I was a whole lap ahead of him.
Yeah, I was in the wall for most of the time, just trying to figure out the controls. But anyways, driving those actual cars were incredible. Great experience. Loved driving those cars. They were so much fun to just rip down those country roads. Yeah, especially the R8. The R8 was definitely my favorite of the two. So smooth, so fun to drive, so easy to drive. After I drove that car, it's now like become my dream car. That's what I said. Like, that has become the car. That's become the ultimate dream car after driving it. It's just incredible. Yeah, but and the Lambo too, the Huracan was a lot of fun as well. Yeah.
So let's jump back. Let's jump back to the movie now. Let's talk David Harbour. He was living his best life in this movie. It was probably my favorite performance from him in a movie. He seemed to be having an absolute blast while still bringing his A game.
Yeah, this is the type of role where David Harbour really kind of thrives in. Like, this was exactly the type of role to cast David Harbour in, and he did a phenomenal job as this kind of like stern coach with another side to him. He's able to be very funny and comedic, bring some lightheartedness to the film, while also being that coach. I thought he was great. I haven't really seen David Harbour in a ton of films and stuff beyond Stranger Things. But this is definitely one of my favorite performances of his. And yeah, I would probably agree that he was probably my favorite performance in the film. I loved all the scenes where he was on screen.
Yeah. And this is a great cast. Like all the performances are great. Jaime Nanzu, Orlando Bloom,
Yeah.
um, all just all really solid performances in this movie. It's well directed, and I just really enjoyed the edge of your seat excitement and how you know and this is overused a lot, but it's really like a heart racing movie where you actually move up, and I witnessed you do this multiple times throughout the movie, especially during the race sequences. Move up to the edge of your seat, and I saw multiple other people in the theater doing the same thing as the intensity built. They just did such a wonderful job, and in the final, like the climactic final sequence, is probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The film does a really good job at kind of building and building to this big kind of final race, this big crescendo, while still having other exciting moments throughout, other little racing sequences. But it really does feel like it's all building to this one moment. And when you do arrive to that third act final race, yeah, it is edge of your seat excitement. Like it's super. Yeah, I don't think it's probably one of the best racing sequences I've seen in a film. That final race sequence in this movie, it was just thrilling. I was so invested and on the edge of my seat, and yeah, I thought it was great.
I know I've said this a couple of times, and I did it in our short video too when I was doing the little micro review. I said this is the best racing movie since Days of Thunder, and there's been a lot of racing movies since then.
Yeah,
But I just feel like level wise, the investment in the characters and the energy and just that heart, I'm saying it again, that heart pounding thrill ride of adrenaline that comes through the movie through you.
yeah,
This movie captures that. It really is something that I think it might have be a big surprise at the box office. I think it's not going to, do $100 million opening weekend or anything. I'm not saying anything like that. I think it's going to have legs as word of mouth spreads. The drop on this movie is going to get smaller and smaller for a few weeks.
yeah. I think you're probably right in that it will do a bit better than people are expecting at the box office, because I do think audiences will really like this movie. I really do. Like I said, it's a crowd pleasing movie. It has those moments where audiences are going to be cheering at the screen. Like it has some really big cheer moments. And I think audiences are going to walk away from this film really satisfied and wanting to recommend it to their film. So because of that, it's going to have good word of mouth and probably do a little bit better than expected at the box office. As for it being the best racing movie since Days of Thunder, well, number one, I haven't seen Days of Thunder, which I don't like. I guess I need to watch that movie.
Okay, I'm kicking Ben off the stream. He's gone. Okay, I'm adding him back.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some good racing movies. This is definitely one of the better ones I've seen. I mean, my favorite recent one's probably being Ford v Ferrari. That's probably been my favorite.
Yeah.
But this one is definitely a lot of fun as well. And just the racing sequences themselves are probably the best I've seen in a good while.
Yeah, and one of the things I really enjoyed about the racing sequences is how they paid homage to the games. Okay, here's a question. Have you seen the Need for Speed movie?
Nope, I've not.
Okay, so to answer your question, Grand Design Studios, I did not really like Need for Speed. As far as I don't know, it didn't have that same adrenaline rush that this movie has. And this is not a video game movie. I just want to say that one more time. This is a
For
sports
sure.
biopic
Yeah.
that came about due to a video game. So it's a sports, it's a racing emulator game. And we've mentioned that a few times where, it's so accurate. They were able to take the best gamers in the world, bring them to a camp, and then pick one who's now podiumed multiple times and had never driven a race car in his life. From a video game to a racer. I mean, I keep holding this up, but if you look, like, from gamer to racer, it's real. It's true story, and that's insane to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't go into this movie expecting it to be a video game movie at all. That's not what it is. And honestly, I think this was a much smarter approach for this movie to do it this way, because it gives it that unique angle of being a biopic. Um, yeah, I think that was a much smarter direction to go in than just a
Yeah,
standard racing movie.
yeah, I agree. And I mean, Jan Marlborough is still racing today, which is pretty incredible. And I don't want to ruin any moment from the movie for anybody who's watching us live. I mean, you can go read about it on the internet if you really want to, because this guy's story is out there. But this is worth seeing on the big screen with a group of people. Our theater clapped at the end, and I've seen other people on Twitter saying the same thing when they went and saw it, that everybody clapped at the end of the movie. So that says a lot, because the only people who hear you when you go to the movies is usually not anybody who made the movies,
Yeah.
unless you're there on premieres with the cast and the director, which obviously they're not doing due to the strike. I mean, and let's end this. Let's end this. I want some fresh stuff be made. Let's fair deals. Let's move on.
Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty smart idea to delay the movie and have these fan screenings because, you know, obviously the cast isn't able to promote the film. So now there's going to be some natural word of mouth promotion that happens. And I think it's already happening with some of it's already premiered in some countries around the world. And
Yeah.
there's been really good word of mouth coming out of those screenings. So I think it's going to ultimately benefit them that they delayed the film because I think there's a little more hype around the movie now since it's premiered and since they delayed it. So that was definitely a good move. And yeah, our theater really loved it. I think, yeah, I think it's going to be a film that really anybody can enjoy. Yeah, anybody can find enjoyment in it.
I don't think you need to be a racing enthusiast to enjoy this movie, because I overheard on the bus as we were being taken back. I know you ended up driving home, lucky bugger. Part of the story that I don't think I've told anybody is that when we got back to the Yorkdale Mall where my car was parked, it was locked in the garage, and it took me 45 minutes to find out how to get back to it.
No, that is terrible. I did not know that.
Yeah, so that was the fun and exciting part of my trip outside of driving the Lamborghinis. Sorry to keep mentioning that part, but it was so much fun.
Oh my goodness.
So, I mean, on the bus ride, I heard people saying that, you know, I didn't know much about racing or this type of racing, and now they're going to start looking it up, or they're going to play this video game, something they never even thought of trying before, because it's not their style of game. So, I mean,
Yeah.
a video game generated a true biopic.
Mm-hmm.
That blows my mind. Like, that just it seems unfathomable that somebody could take a video game. Somebody just said I look like Drunkle Stan. I love it.
Huh. That's hilarious.
I do a pretty good Deuce impersonation. Deuce. What are we doing?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We've been praising the film a lot. I'll mention a couple of things briefly that I wasn't so crazy about.
Okay.
I think the movie was a little overlong, if I'm going to be real, and I felt that quite a bit in the middle of the movie. I think it ends really, really strongly. At times in the middle, it can drag a little bit. I'll say that for sure. I think they could have trimmed off, honestly, 15, 20 minutes of this movie, and it would have been just as effective. They go into some little side plots that I don't think were really fleshed out enough and weren't really necessary. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, I don't think they quite added a lot to the movie, and I think they were a little unnecessary. And I also say it is a little formulaic in the beats that it hits, which is funny because this is a true story. So obviously it's not like they wrote it in a formulaic way. This is just the way that the story happened to play out. But it does hit really every beat you would expect from a racing movie / biopic movie. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. It just, It does hit literally every single expected beat and doesn't really defer from that in any way. It's very much the sports biopic formula. That's obviously going to work for a lot of people because it's a proven formula. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. But maybe there was a little bit freshness that was lost from this movie.
Oh, we just lost Ben for a second. His
Like defer my, they didn't, I still enjoyed the film a lot, even despite those things. But there were definitely a couple of things that I think held the film back a little bit, just for me personally.
Okay, that's fair.
Mhm.
I don't have quite the same complaints as you, and those are the type of things that I typically overlook and forgive.
That's
Because
fair.
when I review a movie, I review it on the experience and not so much looking for those little nitpicky flaws and stuff. Because I've said this multiple times. Um, you know, um, there are no bad movies. There are just some better than others.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't go looking for those.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking me to imitate Seuss again, and I'm not gonna. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's honestly, that's a great mindset to have. And I also, when I'm watching movies, I'm not looking for, not trying ready to break it down and break it apart. I'm always about looking for the positive things as well. I just want to give it a fair shake and, let people know what my full rounded opinion of it is. And, you can make of that as you will. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy watching the movie a lot. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. And I think that audiences will feel the same way.
All right. So what's your final crave rating on this? What's your crave rating?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
All right. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Just a lot of fun. It's a great movie. It's, grab some popcorn, go enjoy. You might need some tissues depending on there's a
There-
really,
There's
you
some
know,
emotional moments for sure.
emotional moments,
Yep.
where it might catch you off guard, but it's a very good heart-pounding, edge of your seat movie that I think deserves to be watched in theaters.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely one to see on the big screen. We saw it in IMAX, and that was a really cool experience. So, and films like this, you got to support them while they're in theaters, so they continue to be made. So, yeah, gather your friends, go see this one in theaters. It's one that I think, like I've said, everyone will find something to enjoy from it. Yeah, it's a great one to see in theaters for sure.
Yeah. So if you like, us and you crave movies like I crave movies, make sure you subscribe, hit like, leave. Thank you for all your comments tonight. If you joined us, we appreciate them. And we're going to start doing regular live videos. We'll put a schedule up in our banner as soon as we figure that out. So thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good one. We'll see you later.
See you, everybody.